Hello guys, my name is Michael and welcome to a new GTK Dialog widget tutorial. Until now we learned how to create a window and with a button which opens for us a dialog, and for this we are connecting the clicked button signal to our button and we are calling the run dialog callback, passing our window through it. And of course our run dialog callback function were quite simple. Even if it was so much information inside, we could split it in much more functions, but it's not an object of our tutorial. As you already see, we were checking first if it's not a GTK window, our pointer which we were passing it. We are informing the user that something went wrong, and we return of course our function. And then just after that we are declaring some pointers for dialog, label, container, and one integer for our response action for our user. And then after that we were creating our dialog with some information which was like being modal or not, its title and its size. Later we saw how we can add a button by calling this function twice, for the yes button and for the no button. And then we saw that there is another function which is called GtkDialog add buttons, which actually does the same thing like this one but in one call. So basically we create more buttons just in one call, which is better than this one if you need to add more buttons. It looks nicer to me. And of course we are creating a label, and then we are getting a content area of our dialog by setting a pointer to this function, and then later adding our label inside the container. And of course our dialog run function which take care of the user interaction with your application. In this case is the way how the user use your program. Here we had two buttons. One was for yes and the other one for no. So basically no means close this dialog box, and yes, kill all this application. Okay, so that being said, this is what we learned until now. Now we can move to the next things which we can use with our GTK dialog. So I'm going to click on it, and there's another function which we can use now, and the function it is called GTK new with buttons, which helps us to create a dialog in one call. So basically I'm going to create another function for it. Oh, you know what, I'm going to copy this part too, and I'm say run to dialog callback, I'm going to call it. And here we are going to check again if it's the right one or not. So let us see if it's working. I'm going to call this time this function run to dialog instead of run dialog here, and I'm going to pass the button itself. I'm going to compile it and run it, and as you can see the provided parameter is wrong. The expected parameter should be a GTK window. Okay, so it works fine, which means we did a great job. At least I hope so. Okay, so that being said, because it's working, we are going next thing to copy this part also here. We are going to talk about that in a moment. And of course, which kind of things do we need? We don't need this part. We don't need, we take the label. Okay, I'm going to get the whole part right here, and we are going to talk about it now. First thing first, we are going to create our dialog with buttons creates a new GTK dialog with the title or null. For the default title, see GTK window set title, we already know that, we use it in the first function, and transient parent or null for none, see GTK window set transient 4. The flags argument can be used to make the dialog model, GTK dialog model, or to have it destroyed along with its parent, so we know those two things. There is another thing which we will see today. There is another kind of flag which we are going to see what different things does, and we are going to use it now with the creation of this kind of dialog with buttons. Okay, so that being said, here we have an example. So basically I can copy this part here, which I can use it for our project. And no, I'm not going to copy it, I'm going to type it. Okay, so dialog is then, so like say we need the GTK dialog with buttons, so GTK dialog new with buttons, and the first one is the title. We are going to use the same title, response. The second one was main app window, so which means our GTK window which we are passing it, so window. The next one, which is the parent of course, the next one will be the flags. So let us check what's the story with these flags. I'm going to open it in a new tab. As you already know, we had model, which I can use it right now. The next one will be our buttons. So I'm going to create 3 this time. So this means first one will be our yes button. I'm going to use 1 no button. I'm going to use 2 and cancel button. I'm going to use 3, and then next one it will be null, which we are informing the function that we are done with it. Now let us see what we have here. I'm going to compile it and run it the way it is, as of course, because I need to pass again our window here. Window. And as you can see, we have our program now, which says I'm sure you want to quit. We have the cancel button, we have the no button, and we have the yes button. All of them it seems to work fine. Of course we can connect them to our response so that we can use them, but I'm going to show you something different now, which is the GTK dialog use header bar. So this is something new for you. I'm going to compile it and run. Watch where goes the buttons now. You see how it looks like now? Let me set some margins first for our label. G object set label. The margin parameter we are going to use it. I'll say 50 pixels, and we are informing our function that we are done with it. And now I'm going to compile it and run it, and watch how the program looks now. Now watch. You see, I show you want to quit, and the buttons are this time right here on your main title. This is the header. bar which it was talking about. So basically this is what this GTK Dialog use header bar flag does. So we have our cancel, no, and yes. Okay, so that being said, it works fine. Now let us check what kind of new function do we have, which we didn't use them. Add an action widget. This is also interesting. Adds an activatable widget to an action area of GTK Dialog, connecting a signal handler that will emit the response signal on the dialog when the widget is activated. So basically we need to create a child. So I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to change the label to something else. I'm going to call it button. I'm going to remove the response and container because we don't need it now. Also this part here, we don't need it, so we are not going to use it now. You already know what you have to do and how you have to do it. So the container part and the label also, and we are going to create a button, GTK button new with label, I don't know, click me or something. And now we are going to call this function GTK Dialog add action widget. The first one is our dialog, GTK Dialog. We need to cast it too. The second one is the second one should be our child, so our button in this case, and the last one will be a response ID, and this response ID for the child. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, so let us use now 4 and see what happens. And there you go. Now we have more. We have click me, cancel, no, and yes. Of course, I'm going to change the dialog use header bar to model so that you see them better. And as you can see here, you have those 4 buttons which we are creating: click me, cancel, no, and yes. The first 3 buttons we were creating through GTK Dialog new with buttons, and the last one we were adding it as an action with GTK Dialog add action widget. And of course, let's see which kind of new function do we set the default response. Okay, that's an interesting. Let me show you something. Now when I open the dialog and I hit enter, you see the yes button has focus, but you can change this by calling this function set default response. It sets the last widget in the dialog action area with the given response ID as the default widget for the dialog. Pressing enter normally activates the default widget. So I'm going to call this function right here, and of course says that we need the GTK dialog and the response ID. Response ID I'm going to use now the 3, which is the cancel one, the cancel button. Let me see if it works. Now I'm going to hit enter, and the cancel has focus as should be. I think if you create some application where you have yes, no, or cancel some ID, you should let the cancel button to be focused, because it is much more possible that the user doesn't want to make some changes then it needs to do them. Okay, so that being said, I think we are done. So let's see, dialog run, dialog response, set response action, default action, set response sensitive. Okay, this is also very interesting. It says calls the GTK widget set sensitive to widget and its Boolean setting for each widget in the dialog area where which in the dialog action area with a given response ID, a convenient way to sensitive dialogs buttons. Okay, so that being said, we are going to use it on the no button to deactivate it. So I'm going to copy this part here and draw it right here. And of course the no button is the number 2, the number 2. And I'm going to compile it and run it, and here we have a problem. 2 field arguments, 1 2 3. Oh, wait, response and say okay, sorry, because we have the first one, it is the dialog, the second one it is which response ID, so in this case which kind of button, which button, and the last one true or false. So I'm going to say to true, compile it and run it. And as you can see, nothing's happened because it's set to true. The no button still works fine, but I'm going to set it this time to false. And you will see that the button no is not working anymore. You see, it's deactivated. So basically you cannot use this button. Maybe if you create a checkbox or something here, you can then connect a signal to that checkbox to activate again or validate back again the button. You know how you do it or how you need to do it. If you know that, just go back to GTK, check buttons and see what we did there in those videos, and you will know what you need to do and how you need to do it. Okay, so that being said, I think we are done. Let's see, with one for getting information like the setting is the opposite, so if you know to set something, you know to get it. Of course, the content area, we have a bunch of deprecated function which we are not going to talk about them, and so on. And yeah, okay, GTK Dialog get header bar, we cannot use it because this function it is not so basically this function we are not going to use it because by calling this function on our dialog and save it into a widget pointer means that we need to use other function which we don't have them, like for example GTK header bar, which we didn't talk about them now, and we will see how it works in another tutorial. Anyway, this one works only if you set the use header bar property to true. Okay, so that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.